Gentlemen, some more happy news today. Let's talk about some positive stuff. We will potentially get into the whole grayscale stuff towards the end of the episode, but there are a few shining bear market builders out there that's happening at the minute. So I think, based on sentiment, I think everyone's sick to death of the FTX and Genesis saga happening at the minute. So I think we should probably lead with some more positive updates that's actually happening. It's kind of difficult to grasp that people are actually continuing to build, but they are, and they'll be around for a long time. So we need to shed a little bit of light on those projects and things like that. But as always, first of all, how's everyone doing?
Back home, dude. I'm back home, which is obviously really cool. Been on the road for 3 weeks. Been a productive 3 weeks, but it's fantastic to be home. So I'm top of the world. Thank you very much for asking.
Mate, I'm bone cold. Like, it is so cold in my little goblin town right now. Like, my room is frozen. Like, these brick walls literally have like ice creeping off them. The windows are like starting to crack. It's so cold. I tried to say no, trying to find my little like breakpoint beanie, but I've got no idea where I've put it. So, but yeah, other than that, I'm great. Apart from being bone cold. Bone cold in the bear market. What load of balls that is.
How are you doing, Grant?
Yeah, good. Busy, good. Kind of done.
Degrees.
Yeah, it's raining actually at the minute, so not too bad. No, just been chatting away with. We kind of pushed a lot of content back a week or two because it had been like shouting into an abyss effectively with everything happening with FTX. So just trying to play catch up on that. And obviously you guys know that there's just letting a little bit of dust settle before the FTX full expose. Me pretending to be Matt Taibbi comes out. So yeah, that's what's happening. Booked a holiday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so yeah, it's all good. I just kind of want to focus on putting a bit of light on people that are actually building, and just because it says a lot about the type of people and the type of projects. Because every project says that they don't necessarily care about price, but you kind of do. But when you see people grinding away, regardless of what's happening further afield, one, it says they've had their house in order throughout the bull market, didn't get too carried away, didn't take on too many expenses, didn't have too many overheads and things like that. So now, because they've played the cards right during the good times, it's like now they can survive the worst of times effectively and build, and then create a huge platform for the next time we start to see green in the markets and continuation, which will come. So those are the projects that we need to be kind of highlighting, I think. And there are a few of them. Obviously, we can get onto it. I'll just bring this one up recently of two of my favorite Gigabrain projects. So there's been a proposal put up on the GMX governance forum that between GMX and Redacted. I think this was coming for quite a while. But effectively, Pyrex is a product of Redacted Cartel. So basically, the opening paragraph is Pyrex is a product of Redacted, which creates liquid rapids that allow for auto compounding and tokenization of future yield/float events. In addition, Pyrex will also include an ecosystem of applications on top of Pyrex liquid wrappers that further enhance the utility of governance tokens for users, enable novel utility, and provide yield opportunities that are exclusive for those using Pyrex wrappers. So, in a high-level nutshell, Pyrex are looking at potentially yield-bearing governance tokens, or governance tokens that have a possibility to earn yield, and then they're going to create their own liquid derivative wrapper of said token, and then plug it into all like Hidden Hand and Pyrex and stuff like that, where they can draw in additional yields from votes, bribes, gauges, and all that kind of fun stuff as well. So I think it's a good move. GMX staked earns 30% of all fees on GMX anyway, but given the way that this is shaping up and the upgrades coming to GMX, I think these two make a real good kind of collaborative partnership. And for this to go through, I think there's going to be a treasury swap. So there's going to be $200,000 worth of GMX handed over to Redacted in their treasury, and then 200K's worth of Butterfly handed over to the GMX treasury, which we can get into in a second. But my first question would be to you both, that we seen, particularly when we seen all these kind of treasuries come onto the market and then end up completely cannibalizing themselves because the vast majority of their own token was the bulk of the treasury, although they'd say they had like 2 million in the treasury, 10 million in the treasury, but 80-90% of that was their own token. It's like, do you think stuff like these treasury swaps are a good way to kind of get around that? Because if it's just sat idle, or you own the lion's share of the token itself, it's like, just turns into a bit of a circle jerk effectively, and you don't really have good capital efficiency with tokens just sat there, because it also doesn't look good if tokens are just taken to the market by the treasury and sold to fund expenses and stuff like that.
So what's actually going to happen with that? Like, are those tokens just going to be like almost like taken out and just like left to one side, or are they going to be utilized to like earn rewards and yield on? Like, how does something like this actually like benefit the project? And like, how would that, so more importantly, like, how would that benefit me as an investor?
So I'm just briefing over the proposal itself. So it says specifically, we're proposing to swap 200K worth of GMX for 200K worth of Butterfly tokens. The amount of tokens received will be on a 30-day trailing average of both tokens. Prices at the time the government proposal passes. That's not really informative, but Redacted's GMX will be permanently deposited into Pyrex for PX GMX, so like the Pyrex GMX wrapper, and will be used to bootstrap Pyrex GMX ETH liquidity, so like a Pyrex GMX ETH LP. As all GMX received by Redacted will be deposited into Pyrex for PX GMX. All ES GMX yield from that PX GMX will be permanently staked and tokenized as further PX GMX. GMX's Butterfly will be locked for RL. So effectively, what the low level idea of it is, Dan's got a project, I've got a project. We're both going to swap tokens, and then we're both going to use what we've got on our back end to put those tokens to good use. And earn additional yield for the protocol. So instead of the tokens being effectively sat there idle, one, you can get them off your books, reduce exposure and increase diversification of your treasury. Two, you can put those tokens to good use with all these kind of yield-bearing products like Pyrex and Hidden Hand that Redacted have. And if you think about it, with GMX, if they're going to convert the GMX, if Redacted are going to convert GMX to PX GMX, that's effectively taking 200K worth of GMX off the market indefinitely. And the same really applies for taking 200K's worth of Butterfly off the market, because it's saying it's going to be locked for RL Butterfly. So, and it says after 2 years, if there's been any material change in tokenomics or intended utility of tokens that result in the protocol being able to use them as had been planned, the protocols may mutually review and come to governance to seek equitable adjustments. So, yeah, I think it's a good thing. I like the idea of kind of cross collaboration where it makes sense. We've seen it on a larger scale with FTX, where they were primarily flooding the market with FTX tokens to use as collateral and get the actual real money. And then when the house of cards came crumbling down, the death spiral was created because near enough everyone's debt and collateral was FTT. So the diversification aspect of treasuries that can use the token swaps to then generate additional yield. It's like a treasury shouldn't necessarily be sat idle, you know. It should be put to work. But so I think stuff like this is really good, really interesting. It's great for partnerships as well. I think these two will be around in the next 5-10 years, to be honest, like the way that they go on.
So I think to answer your question, 100% agree with you that there needs to be a collaboration that works. I think the risk right now is, do you collaborate with a project, with an individual, or whatever it might be, and then you put your funds at risk, and the likelihood of that happening in the present market is really high. But then when you get giga brains like this coming together, it's an obviously good idea, because you're pooling resources, you're pooling brain power, and you're pooling together, I think, intellectual capital that is essentially being reflected in, the sum of those treasuries. And if you get the correct partnerships, especially in this market, you are laying the foundation for, like you say, a 5 to 10 year relationship that could potentially override, even the worst of market conditions. And I think that's what these guys are doing right now, is that they're aware of what the challenges are. Now, how do we actually get together and maximize the potential of our treasuries, but then also of our brain capacity? I mean, GMX is definitely not going anywhere. If anything, GMX is setting the trend for the decentralized exchange narrative that I think is going to play out very much for at least the medium term. And when I say medium term, I mean, like into 6 months and possibly even over the next 12 months. Central exchanges have their problems. We know this. We know that DeFi can solve a lot of these problems. GMX has proven to be bulletproof, and then Redacted have just been really good at coming up with these innovative products. It's a no-brainer. I mean, this is very much a good news story.
And you've got to think of, like, from a revenue perspective, because I think I'm 90% sure there's an awful lot of people out in the market that think they've launched a token. One, the community should be 100% benefactor of that. Everyone who's behind the scenes has launched it in goodwill, and that's it. We go our separate ways. To stay alive, they need to be able to fund expenses and to create incentives around staying alive and run like an actual business. And I don't think people understand that an awful lot. It's kind of a stupid thing, like a stupid claim to make, but a lot of unsophisticated players in the space just assume that everything should be 100% fair launch. There should be kind of no tokens given to the team. And I don't know where they think the money comes from to stay operational. But stuff like this, if you think of both 5x over whatever time horizon, so they've both got $1 million in the treasury that's earning, I don't know, 8 to 15% yield, depending on volatility and market and volume conditions and things like that. That's probably going to pay for, I don't know, maybe all the business development team or something like that. You just kind of look at it a little bit longer duration out, or it's just going to give you a little bit more run rate, and everything that you can achieve, particularly in this market. I think, it's, you need to also put that treasury to use. It makes no sense just being sat there on 100% of its own tokens. And that's why you see ridiculous drawdowns in treasuries when things go south. So yeah, again, I think it's a good move. I'd like to try it out as soon as it comes online. I'm pretty sure it'll get approved just based on the names. So yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. And again, just pointing at two people in the space that are just going to be around for a while building, and those are the people they need to latch onto and learn from, and also kind of figure out what they're doing, and their incentives around doing it. Because I don't think GMX and Sammy and the boys there are out to try and buy 10 Lambos each. I think they just want to build cool shit and see how far they can get, really.
And then one Lambo would be fine.
Maybe one Lambo. Yeah, yeah. My favorite builders at the minute, Tapioca.
Oh no, Grant, come on, not another airdrop thread or dude.
But this is a real airdrop thread that actually is true, has relevance, and will happen, as opposed to 99% of the BS that we've seen over the last 3 weeks, where it's all clickbait and it's all just bullshit.
They're rearing their heads again.
They are rearing their heads. Well, we've got, I mean, we can discuss it after this one, but I mean, the Arbitrum one is definitely top of the news in terms of that. I mean, no one really knows anything, but it's coming. We know that. But Tapioca, let's get onto that. I mean, they're definitely onto something, aren't they?
Right. First of all, before we get into that, what's both your opinions on airdrops?
Dan can go first. I definitely have an opinion on this.
It's a double-edged sword. Like, it's a great way for projects and ecosystems to get people there, like actually using it and like interacting with the system. If it's like the native, if they're just given the native token, let's be honest. If I spend the time to go and do the Aptos airdrop, I would have dumped it straight away. So it is a way of like pumping and dumping their actual token. So from that sense, not great. If you gamify it, yeah, it's a bit of fun. And like I say, it does give you interaction on it. But at the end of the day, it's just, I don't know, it's just engagement farming. It's a way to crush your chart unless you've got something in place to help repump it.
Okay, so it is. I do agree with Dan. It is a double-edged sword, and you are correct, Dan, in why it is a double-edged sword. But let's expand upon that. What is an airdrop supposed to do? It's supposed to maximize your engagement. It's about directing attention to yourself. The reason, so that's great. So that's the one side of the sword. The other side of the sword is that by doing that, and the way that it's been done every single time, is that it basically wrecks charts. It's an opportunity for whales to just dump on everyone, and it's just probably the most negative self-fulfilling prophecy that you're possibly going to get. We've seen it with so many projects. In my opinion, no one has ever done it correctly. Why? Because all it is, it's an inflationary process, and sure, it gets the attention, but it ultimately leads to blood, sweat, and tears, and it just doesn't work. Is it a good thing if done correctly? Yes, but no one's done it correctly. How could they do it correctly? I think, and this is the reason why our resident gigabrain, namely Grant, has asked this question, I suspect, is that Tapioca might have come up with a way to figure out how to do it properly. Who would have expected that from Tapioca? But we know that they know what the hell they're doing. And my guess is, because I don't quite know how the dynamics of this airdrop works, they might have figured it out. Am I correct, sir?
I think so. Just one point on, particularly with products and chains and networks that don't necessarily require the token for gas doing airdrops. It's kind of twofold. One, it depends where the company is registered, and would an airdrop be more regulatory friendly, if that makes sense? Because you're not, because like if you use optimism, for example, because we've got a clear path of the OP token. One, they can take private investment with equity and tokens, but primarily equity. They can sell that and sell the product and the labs and the technology with the idea that the investors are going to get a return on their initial capital. That's okay. You can do that. You can do that in the private markets for equity. That's completely fine. When you start getting to tokenization and it goes public markets, then it becomes a little bit squirrely, particularly if you're registered in the US, because you definitely can't do a public sale, and you definitely can't incentivize people to purchase the token with idea that there'd be profit further down the line from this initial purchase, because that's definitely getting into securities language and securities talk with how we testing things. So the token effectively for these chains begins to look a little bit like, what would it be like? I don't even know. Just like a market's interpretation of the success of the chain, like a purely supply and demand, like some kind of Starbucks credit or something. So again, I think it comes down to some tokens get airdropped. One, there's a customer acquisition cost that's effectively printed out of thin air if you think about it like that. Two, to avoid kind of regulatory scrutiny, because you're not promising any profit. And three, probably to help the private investors get liquid quicker because they've signed up for project equity, but also project tokens, which are obviously tradable on the market. On top of that, if you are an ecosystem, you can obviously use that for incentives, for grants and other kind of partnerships and stuff like that. So there is that dynamic to it as well, where the markets are effectively choosing the price at which the token should be valued, which then you can take the token to project XYZ, say, come here, build with us, we're going to give you this X amount of tokens, or go to a project and say, we want a partnership, you can have these tokens and things like that. So there are ways it can be useful, but again, you get the airdrop threaders, you get the airdrop farmers, you get the airdrop civil attackers that just try and gamify it. And this, like, the whole airdrop thing's been around for a while now, so it's a path well trodden, which has never really been pulled off correctly without a seemingly market dump following it. I mean, there might have been some in the bull market that performed very well, but I can imagine there was market makers on the other end that were also holding a large portion of this token that had a potential option to buy at a later date. So that's, as I say, like TLDR on that. I don't think it's ever been done properly, but this, again, Tapioca pulling it out of the bag, thinking of innovative ways to do this kind of thing. So what they're going to do,
just hang on a sec. Before we... No, wait, I'm first. If you look down on the screen, you'll see that I told Matt that we had brought this thing up, and he's one of the founders of Tapioca, and I just sent him the link. So this is completely and utterly unscripted. So I thought we'd just invite him on. So welcome, Matt. We just thought we'd bring you on because we were chatting about your terrible idea around airdrops and making it sustainable. Who would have thought that you would have come up with that idea? And we want to just break it down and get your opinion on it. So welcome, sir. I mean, this is completely unscripted. I mean, I just kind of saw you in Discord, and I thought, let me invite you in for our listeners and our viewers. That we didn't plan this. We just thought that we'd bring you in, and we were just talking about airdrops, and the fact that they're generally not the most positive thing, but that you guys might have figured it out, and we just wanted to get your thoughts around what you were thinking and the whole thing around airdrops.
Yeah,
Matt, can you, because we've just all answered our opinion on traditional airdrops, and we kind of focused on the likes of an optimism, how that's played out, why they use that. But I'd love to hear like your thoughts and opinion on traditional kind of airdrops and why they've effectively failed.
Yeah, no. So first, I just wanted to say thank you for having me on, gentlemen. Always love joining the Blockmates crew here. Love these guys. I'll just say for the audience here. But yeah,
we paid him to say that, by the way.
Yeah, no, I got it. Yeah, I got a little down the But no, yeah, no, I actually wasn't invited to. I just kind of interjected myself, but but no, yeah. So airdrops, yeah. So basically, the first, we wanted to do an airdrop because the big point of airdrops to me is I don't really care about the marketing aspect of it personally. To me, it's more about effective ways to have a diverse token holder group, so that you can have a lot of different interests, available as far as from a governance standpoint comes. So we kind of looked at like, okay, airdrops suck. What can we kind of do? But before I get to obviously the mechanics behind what an options airdrop would be. Just kind of touching on what you just said, Grant, as far as like what kind of problems we identified. Like basically, like we looked at most airdrops done in the last couple of years, like the retention rate. The retention rate at best, and this is with vesting, like with some of these, we included airdrops that they vested the airdrop. The retention rate after 30 days is sub 20%. And if you go out to 90 days, it's around 1%. So say you give out 1 million tokens, to, I don't know, 10,000 people, you got like 100 people that hold that token after 90 days. So they're wholly ineffective in actually garnering what the goal in mind is of getting a lot of participants involved to hold your token. And just to give some data behind that, some sources. So we looked at like 1inch, ENS, Uni, Hashflow, tons of different different protocols that have done airdrops, and yeah, that was the average, was around 20% at 30 days and 1% at 90. And then we kind of looked at like, okay, how are people trying to protect against Sybil attacks? And just to kind of simplify Sybil attack for people here, it basically just means like people gaming the system, like kind of mercenary, liquidity locusts, as I call them, that are just trying to get stuff for free. There's the advent of the airdrop hunter that's just looking for, free stuff, a free lunch, basically. People have tried also to do like Gnosis, where they were doing like the tattletale stuff, which I thought was insane. It was almost like an Orwellian type dystopia where it's like, oh, Grant wants to sell the airdrop, so I'm going to tattletale on him. And then, Jedi knows Matt wants to sell the airdrop. So, it's just absurd to I think, to me, to do stuff like that. Secondarily, there's like the non-transferable thing that's getting a little popular, which I think is even worse, because then people are like, okay, what the hell do I do with this? And then you have to tell people, oh, it's not transferable. Sorry. And it's just like, okay, well, why isn't it transferable? And it's just basically introducing vesting and stuff, which is just like, they just want to sell. You can vest them for 100 years. They're just going to sell it. Like as soon as you open up anything. We looked at basically, so we want to get a lot of people into decentralize the governance system. That kind of led us to optimism when we were kind of looking at what's been done previously. And what we kind of looked at with optimism, as far as the problem was, if you guys followed it, as far as the delegate system, basically people were just trying to race to get the airdrop, and they were just clicking delegate on whoever was, number one. They didn't even read like what the person's plans were for optimism, nothing. It was just basically a popularity contest. And or whoever populated that first spot, so people just click it as quick as they can so they can sell it. That I think was even worse than the traditional airdrop. So basically, we just said, to make a long story short, we just said, what's our mantra? Our mantra is to give value. Or to get value, you need to give value. So we just looked like, okay, we're doing call options for incentives. Why don't we just drop a bunch of call options everywhere? We get protocol owned liquidity from it, because people have to buy it. It really doesn't matter if you Sybil attack it. And we can get a lot of participants who care about the protocol and who actually want to govern it, because if they're buying into the system, even with a discount, even if they just buy it and then just sell it right away, you're still, to me, this is an experiment with no data. But basically, to me, if you're going to put money into the system, there's a higher chance that you're probably going to stick around. And even if you don't, thanks for the protocol owned liquidity. So, like, either way, we walk out with a win. And it basically just to me, the last kind of part of the system me and Ben worked out was basically at the end. Obviously, there's going to be people who haven't claimed some of the tap from the options, like maybe they don't exercise it. So then we say, okay, the TW tap lockers, so basically people who lock their tap up, are going to get to buy out all the rest of that tap that's not been redeemed. So basically, it incentivizes people to then want to lock their token up so they get a second shot at buying more options, making more profit. So I think overall, it's a really financially aligned system that really throws away the whole just let's send a bunch of free tokens out and hope that that works somehow.
Mm-hmm. So what will that look like? So will they receive? What will a user receive? Will they receive like an NFT into the wallet that they can that be used to verify that this specific wallet address is allowed to buy at a discount? Like how do the dynamics of that work?
Yeah, so basically how it's going to work is we've already announced well ahead of time. I mean, this airdrop's not going to happen for probably 60 to some days, but basically everyone in our guild, so we've been heavily relying on guild.xyz for kind of community management and growth. Basically, all those people are going to get allocations of OTAP. OTAP is an ONFT or Omnichain NFT, 771 standard. And basically, how it's going to work is we're going to run the LBP. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with LBPs or liquidity bootstrapping pools. It made really popular by Bouncer, Copper, etc. And basically, the sooner you go in the LBP, because one of the problems with LBP is like, why would you buy at the top? Like if a lot of the people looked at like Aura, for example, their LBP, people just waited, till the end, to get the cheapest price. So basically, where we got the idea to also give the airdrop to LBP participants was from BitDAO, actually. So BitDAO did an airdrop to people who went in their MISO auction. The sooner you went into the MISO auction, the more BIT tokens you got from the airdrop. So with us, it's basically the sooner you go into the LBP, the larger your discount is that you'll get on more tap after the completion of the LBP. So basically how it's going to work is all these participants, so LBP participants, guild members, they're going to get this ONFT called OTAP or options tap. And that's going to have a set amount of tap that they can buy. So they're basically going to get maybe like 100 ONFTs, or I'm sorry, OTAP, or 1,000 OTAP, and that's 1-to-1 equivalent to tap. So if you have one OTAP, it's equivalent to one tap, or it gives you the right or the option to exercise to buy the discount for that one tap. So basically, everyone's going to get a set amount other than the LBP. That's going to be proportional to how much of the LBP they buy. And then basically, it's the option is the spot price is going to be taken as the final LBP price. So if like the LBP, say it ends at $1, and you're like an OG Pearl, which is like the original guild members, they get a 50% discount. So then they would basically get the option to buy tap at 50 cents, while it's actually $1 on the spot price. And that just goes on and on, that different guild members get different discount levels and also different amounts of OTAP that they can exercise.
Could you exercise a portion of OTAP? Like,
yes.
Or do you have to? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you could say, so, say you get 1,000 OTAP, you could say, man, I don't want to buy that much. Maybe I want 200. So you could really do whatever you want in that regard.
Yeah, and that remaining 800, if not exercised in the allotted time.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and that'll be 72 hours. So so people basically, they'll have a 72-hour expiry. And then, of course, there's going to be tap that's not redeemed. Like, probably I would say at least 40 to 50% won't be redeemed. And TW tap lockers are going to be able to buy all that up. And basically, this is going to go day by day by day, or some time interval between each drop. And it's all going to be against the final LBP price of each day. Or I'm sorry. So basically, the first will be the LBP people. They'll get final LBP price. They'll get the spot price. Then it'll be maybe X sushi holders, and then it'll basically be the spot price of that day, and et cetera, et cetera. So it'll go like day by day by day by day. And then the final day, all the remaining tap that's that hasn't been redeemed, the TW tab blockers will be able to buy it at a 50% discount. So they'll get the highest discount to buy, as much tap as they want. And it's basically going to be proportional to their share of the total TW tap locking pool. So it's very similar to VE. So say you own 10% of the pool and there's 1 million tap left over, then you'll be able to buy 100,000 tap, just as an example.
Yeah. When can we get you back on to talk about TW tap?
Oh yeah, no. Whenever there. Obviously I'm always around as Jedi, and you guys know I'm awake all times of the day. But no, yeah. So TW, we're really trying to hold. So we did unveil like the basics of it on this Tuesday's Tap Talk, the last Tap Talk that came. But basically, yeah, the math and some of the more intricate stuff we're holding back just because I think it's the most special thing that we've created. So we're trying to be very delicate on where that info lies. But basically, I just tell people like, oh, what's TW? I usually say think VE, but with no fixed values. So like, say for example, VE, you lock 100 CRV for 4 years, you get 100 VE CRV. But if you lock it for 1 year, you'd get maybe 25 VE CRV. Mm-hmm. With this, it's, the free market decides the value of time. So you could lock for 100 years and get X amount, or you could lock for 10 years. It's all up to the market, how much that time is worth. So that's kind of the base concept.
All right. I can kind of picture how that's going to work. But yeah, as soon as that's out, we need to do a full Tapioca episode anyway, but I'm sure we can do that in a couple of weeks. But I'll leave this, if anyone wants to listen to a little bit more, I'll leave this in the description as well from the latest one. You might be able to pick up some hints.
Thank you, Matt, for coming on. It's really cool to be able to message you on Discord and at a moment's notice. So thanks for that really interesting breakdown in terms of how you guys are obviously approaching this airdrop thing. I mean, I made a comment beforehand that I believe that possibly this might be, reinvention of the airdrop concept, and obviously making it more sustainable and meaningful for users, but more importantly for the community on the long term. And I think it might just do that. I think ultimately it is an experiment, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, over the medium to long term. But it definitely does add a different spin to it, and obviously a lot more meaningful. You're getting a discount. Essentially, the TLDR version is that you're ultimately getting a discount on the option to buy a tap going forward. And I think that's a brilliant idea, and I look forward to see how it's going to play out. It's going to be fascinating, actually.
Yeah, and I'll just say, I mean, we've looked at this model a lot, especially from the standpoint of, basically, worst case scenario, people don't redeem the options, and it's just like, okay, it goes right back to the DAO. Like if say even the TW tap blockers didn't buy it, then it'll just go right back to the DAO, and then basically the emissions keep rolling over. So that basically the emission curve is based on 4 years. If it was perfectly redeemed every time, obviously it's not. We looked at Keeper for that, Keep 3R, Andre Cronies, that did an option style emission, and they had about 30 to 40% redemption. So if we had the same, basically what we're thinking is these emissions could carry us for 8+ years, which is the goal, that basically we can have the first sustainable emission system. Because if you really, it boggles my mind if and just real quick, if you ask any protocol, like, okay, you got 50 million X tokens for emissions. Okay, what happens when these run out? Like, and 99% of protocols will go, and they don't want to say they're going to mint more tokens. And when they mint more tokens, that means you're getting diluted. So, it's and that's what we wanted to fight was, so 10 years from now, we're trying to really say this is a fixed supply. So when this supply is gone, there will never be more. And then we move to a model where we start buying them back. We use our fees to buy them back off the market and then inject them back into an options program. because we'll be making enough yield off our protocol owned liquidity. So it's kind of this whole system. But yeah, it'll an episode someday we'll do. But yeah, it's this whole thing to kind of I just think in general DeFi protocols. I think a lot of them look at a cycle, like lasting one cycle, and it's like I think to actually be a successful protocol, you got to look at the next decade, the next 2 decades. Like, how are these systems going to play out over that amount of time? And I think if you look at a lot of protocols, unfortunately, after about a year, maybe 2, it's like, well, the emissions are gone. Well, this is dead. And it's just like, okay, well, now we make another protocol. So, but yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I really do appreciate it. And
you're welcome anytime.
Yeah.
Well, clearly, it's probably 3 a.m. where he is, and it's like any time definitely applies.
Yes,
to
sir.
Matt.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So when are you changing your name? Just before we let you go, and we can carry on with other topics. When are you changing your name? Because the veMatt thing is now it's done and dusted, isn't it?
Well, yeah. So when we release the TW white paper, basically all me, Josh, everybody with the VE, it's all we're all gonna be deceased, unfortunately.
So when are we? When is that? When is the date for white paper?
White paper we're looking right now late December. Just so we get something. We're trying to condense it down. It's like 40 pages, so we're trying to kind of make it a little more readable. But yeah, basically we're just trying to condense it down, refine it, and also get the smart contracts polished up. We're about to do an audit with C4 Arena after we finish up with Certora. And then obviously some sleuths will see the TW contracts on C4, but yeah, luckily too late, and it's not going to be it's not going to be full open source, so you're not forking them yet, guys. So
love it.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, guys, and I'll be listening in the rest of the show. Thank you for having me on Blockmates community, and I'll see you guys around. Much love.
Take it easy.
Cheers, man. Bye.
Take care.
So there you have it. We get to message founders on Discord and ask them to come on stream literally at a second's notice. So there you have it. Airdrop redefined. Brilliant.
I tell you what. That was one of those JFC kind of moments because the way Matt described it, you just like it. If you read the thread, like it might seem complex, but then he just broke it down so simply. Like JFC, that makes sense. Like that actually makes real sense. Like good effort, lads. Good effort.
It's one of those things because it was so like replicated and that was the status quo around it. It just takes someone to sit down, and obviously Matt and the team, you can tell they're complete outside of the box thinkers, like with the whole way the protocol's designed. And they've obviously just looked at it and thought, well, what the hell can we do here? Because we want that distribution of token holders, which is always a good thing. And we also want increased governance that brings, because they've got like 2 sub DAOs as well, so you're going to need that. Governance is a bit of a meme, but they've even thought about that because they have like an optimistic DAO and something else DAO, which we'll get into. I think we'll cover them in a long form article. So they needed a way to actually figure out how to do that, and I think they've again smashed it out of the park. We'll see how it unfolds, but I think a lot of people are very happy because everyone's happy they're getting an airdrop and they get to exercise it at a discount. And if they want to sell it on the open market, they've still made a profit. So, but at the end of the day, when they do redeem, the funds used to redeem are going into the protocol. The protocol is going to put those assets to work in LPs or other yield-bearing assets, just as we were talking about with GMX and BTRFLY previously. So, I hate to go on about them so much, but they're just doing everything so well. It's really refreshing.
You know what I like about it is that it's like we need to be looking at this thing from a 5 to 10 year perspective, and this whole 1-2 year thing that's done now. We're done with that. We need to look at the long term, and that's what we need, right? That's what this is all about. We get these great ideas, and it comes back to what it is that you brought up earlier, in terms of your favorite builders as well, from GMX and Redacted Cartel, is that to answer your question, like bringing treasuries together, bringing ideas together, that's what it's about. It's about that long term perspective and vision, and creating sustainability that takes the innovation of making money work in a non-scammy way, like to eliminate that whole thing that Dan's been saying, like crypto's a scam. I mean, how can it not be a scam? Well, this is how it cannot. How can it not be a scam? Well, this is how it cannot be a scam. Exactly this.
And this
sorry, go on, Dan.
And this is why I've been like, so maybe I haven't like articulated it the best, but this is why I'm so bullish on the space, because it is getting rid of those like 1 and 2 year projects, and it is paving the way for the people who actually, there's that meme, in it for the tech, but like people are actually now in it to do some cool stuff. And I think Matt and the team at Tapioca are like showcasing that. Instead of like I'm going to give you a token priced at 100%. It's like, look, if you want to buy a token, you can buy the token but cheaper. Like, it's so painstakingly obvious that it's genius.
Shall we finish the last 15 minutes and try and dissect what's happening with DCG and Grayscale and GBTC and all that kind of jazz?
Yeah, I'd like to do it just purely because, like I said before we went on stream, is that I just felt like there was such a tremendous amount of noise out there. This very well attended spaces, that's been going on for just over a week now. I think it's probably a space that has had more disinformation and more fear mongering around what's happening than probably any other news outlet / anything that has ever been out there ever. I mean, it's just been phenomenal, really. Like, and I think anyone who's been in there for an extended period of time just really has a very warped sense of what's actually going on, because, like as they say, opinions, everyone has an opinion, and unfortunately we need to get to the facts around this. So if we could get some of that would really be appreciated.
I think the phrase is, opinions are like arseholes, everyone has one.
Didn't really want to go there, but thanks for clarifying that. I think if there was ever a time for that to be applied, it would be in this instance, yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was kind of getting at, but we should have ended with that. Because now I don't want to talk about Grayscale.
Yeah. Anyways, so just all this disinformation that's going on. So what's going on?
I was hoping you two knew. No, I know. So GBTC, as far as I understand and know, it's too much of a fucking boomer product for me, but it's a way for people to gain exposure in the US market, to basically gain exposure to Bitcoin, because their underlying trust that they're getting exposure to holds like 3% of all Bitcoin on the planet or some shit. So what has currently been happening for a while. So like GBTC is an investment fund that owns over 3.4% of all Bitcoin in circulation.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah. So as of 2022, February, each of GBTC was backed by 0.000926869. So there's obviously a disparity between how many GBTC and how many Bitcoin there actually are. So effectively, the bet here is like a pure speculation play of whether Grayscale can get the Bitcoin spot ETF over the line, which they've been trying for. They actually sued the SEC for it because they've got absolutely everything in order and they're just still not allowing it. So it's effectively a play on that, and then whether the underlying BTC then becomes redeemable from what I understand. There was the whole, because of the speculation leading into the Bitcoin spot ETF, there was like the whole Bitcoin GBTC play that effectively blew up. Well, the spread got too thin, and 3 Arrows Capital were extremely highly leveraged over it. So that might have, funnily enough, could have started where it's about to finish, I think, because if that's initially what fucked them and pushed them towards venture, and then for them to buy a shitload of Luna and stuff like that. So there are ripples that have come full circle here, but they just can't seem to get the ETF over the line, particularly with Gensler in charge. I don't think they're ever going to do it because he's just got a fucking hard on for protecting everyone, hasn't he? So it came out the other day that it had both GBTC and ETH bottomed at 10 a.m. today. So ETH is obviously the other trust that captures a load of ETH, which is Grayscale's Barry Silbert, all those market participants and all that kind of shit. So the discount reach was around 50%, which represents 100% return if the trust returns to par. Value buyers found their levels. So people have definitely stepped in at these prices. There's something going on. There's something happening. I don't know what it is, and I can't really see.
Is that the billion that's outstanding? Is that where the billion comes in? There's like a billion that's needed. What's the story with that billion? There's a road, $1 billion.
I really don't get it, because obviously this from CoinDesk, which is quite strange, but also quite good with journalistic integrity, because CoinDesk are owned by DCG, and CoinDesk also, Ian Allison from CoinDesk also released the initial FTX balance sheet that was a bit skewed, which led to all this, which is published through CoinDesk, who DCG own, that are now struggling for investment, which is all kind of funny but horrendous at the same time. It just shows how small the industry is and how interconnected everyone is, and how little money there actually is. And it's all fucking leveraged to the tits. It's probably like $25 in there, and it's all scaled up to like a couple of trillion or whatever it was at the height. But yeah, the gap widened and the discount that they're referring to is the net asset value. So how much Bitcoin they're holding compared to the value of the GBTC, and obviously that hits an extremely low point, and people have consequently stepped in. But the fallout with regards to Genesis and Grayscale, they're all kind of part of the same under the same umbrella, if you want to think about it that way. So I don't know who's left to get killed because of this. I don't know what's going to happen. It's just when one of the biggest lenders in the space goes tits up effectively, Gemini Earn's still struggling. They can't seem to get funds over the table. I don't know whether that's because typically where the funds would be coming from are a little bit standoffish because of what's happened with FTX and the regulatory scrutiny, and are they going to make an investment in its not looked up on favorably by Gensler and his cronies and stuff like that. So I don't know what's happening. I wish I did know, and I wish it was a little bit more transparent. They also came out recently with they don't want to disclose how much Bitcoin they actually have.
They won't do any proof of reserve, which is worrying. And I was going to say, you've got two things that are worrying. One, they won't do proof of reserve to see what's actually behind the scenes. But number two is Cathie Wood also bought another 2.8 million of it. So last week she bought some coin shares. Literally a few days after she bought coin, Brian dumped bags on her. Now Cathie's buying GBTC. Is she now going to be the kiss of death on this?
Dan, I know that you think Kathy Wood is really hot, but that doesn't give justification to the fact that she bought Grayscale that it might be meaningful. So just hold your horses there, sir. Because I know how your
I'm
mind
saying
works.
it's a bad thing. Like she bought Coinbase, then Brian dumped on her. Now she's buying Grayscale. Like, is Barry going to dump?
Are you seeing a trend here? Is that what you're saying?
I am seeing a trend. They're not showing what's going on behind the scenes. Kathy, she did well in the bull run, bless her, but now she's too early a little bit. Like,
the thing is, I'm really concerned with what it is that you're saying, because your speculative comments have always proven to be very reliable, and your tongue-in-cheek comments rather have always proved to be reliable, and I'm a little bit concerned that we're going to have a repeat of that as well.
So am I, because in the video we put with the newsletter yesterday, like literally we're saying, you know, is Genesis going to be the final leg of capitulation? And literally 2 hours after, you know, posting it, you had all those tweets saying that Genesis couldn't find $1 billion, and it's like, oh shit, we are boogered. We're proper boogered.
Well, the market's definitely the market right now, irrespective of the facts that don't seem to be to light, and I'll come back to the proof of reserve. The market's basically telling us right now that there is no faith in this product, particularly, and more importantly, the outcome of where this might land up being. The market's saying we don't like it, and Coinbase did put out a 2-page official letter with all their logos and their BS saying that we've got the coin, it's legit. But then when people say, well, show us on the blockchain, there's no response to that, which is obviously why DeFi solves a lot of these problems, right?
Yeah.
This is a great thread.
What's that one, boy?
This guy's reporting that, like, with this full network map, over 432 addresses holding around 705 Bitcoin to likely be GBTC custody activity. This is a total of 50% of the GBTC reporting of current holdings, which is eerily close to the actual discount rate.
Are you suspecting, is there a suspicion that maybe they only have half of that and they are allocating double?
And is that why it's 50% down?
It's a bit, the numbers line up.
That's interesting.
I mean, I haven't actually went through all this thread, and obviously it's really nice to see if things line up so perfectly and correct. I don't know how but the pictures look nice, so it must be real. And he posted it on Twitter, so it must be real. Kathy definitely would.
This really could be the initiation of the final stage of capitulation.
What price you buying?
I got Sting bids in it. This obviously isn't financial advice. This is just me having a laugh and having a joke. But 69.69 for Bitcoin, 6,969 for the culture.
Not a bad price, to be fair.
Yeah, I think that's the Grayscale story is what's driving everything right now, and it is the final boss, isn't it? It seems. I mean, there is really no. I mean, one would argue that Sale is the big boss at the end, but I think Grayscale is more important. They hold more of everything. They are the swing. They are the pivot in this whole equation, and let's hope that they're actually going to be fine. So what do these bear markets do? They see who's swimming naked and on low tides and all that stuff. And right now we have a low tide, and let's just hope Grayscale's got their pants on.
So you're saying there's a low tide and we've got a lot of naked swimmers happening right now?
Oh my goodness. Kathy Wood is one of them, Dan.
Get you.
Kathy certainly would.
Got her on speed dial here. Hey, Kathy. I saved that one. I saved that for the Friday newsletter.
I'll have that sock puppet over his hand again. But if they actually only have 1.6% of the supply instead of the 3.2 that they're actually alluding to, then is that bullish or bearish? Because they're gonna have to sell it regardless. But where the fuck is the rest? It must be somewhere.
Mate, it's
no, I mean, surely there's no ways. I mean, those guys, they would have been. They're an American-based company. I think that it's not likely that they would have been evasive around that. I'm pretty sure there is that amount. It's just where is it? You know, where is it? That's the question.
I don't know. I'm sure it'll rear its head at some point. But if anyone's ever fucking sniped a shitcoin chart and proceeded to dump 1% supply, they'll know the damage that can cause. Maybe Sailor will buy it all off him at like 4K just to protect his liquidation.
Mate, El Salvador. Mate, just get him to buy the dip every day.
That's working, isn't it? Hey, God. I was going to say, speaking of assholes, but
did you see Kobe on his alt account? Apparently said member of that space wanted to buy up only, and Kobe suspected that he wanted to buy it so that he could replace Kobe as the main actor in that whole thing. And Kobe really wanted to see it happen so badly that he was actually dropping the price as the conversation continued. But now the conversation has gone to a state where said space's owner is now pretending that Kobe's speaking to his assistant as opposed to him directly. So the deal's off and Kobe's gutted that he couldn't sell up only. Just so that he could see the initial...
Is this it?
The initial Twitch. Yes. There we go.
We'll be discussing DeFi as a hedge against inflation at the roundtable space this Thursday at 12 Eastern. We'd love for you to be on the panel of speakers if you're interested. Hey, Sarah here on behalf of Mario. We're planning on debating Cardano. Piss off, Sarah. Cardano NFTs on the show next Tuesday. Would you be interested? Hi, Cobies. Sarah here. We'd love to have you and Ledger Status on our show tomorrow as we discuss FTX, Binance, and liquidation FMO. We're getting in exchanges as well, and people we know working at Alameda as well.
No, but hang on, just so look what he says there. No, scroll down. I wanted him to buy it so badly just so that I could watch the Twitch reactions during the first episodes. I even kept making the price cheaper.
This Mario guy that is now popular on Spaces tried to buy up only TV so he could replace me as host with himself, but then backed out of the deal, and now he just messaged me pretending to be an assistant all the time.
So Mario is Sarah.
I think so, yes.
Jesus Christ.
Brian Pellegrino from Layer Zero.
Yeah.
Hard-hitting topics like Cardano NFTs. Fucking
oh my God.
Oh, that's just epic. Like Gigabrain Brian even commented. I mean, it's so epic.
Right, gents, that was fun. I'll make sure all the Tapioca stuff and some of the stuff we talked about are in the description. There's still a big percentage of people who listen actively but don't subscribe, so please try and just press the little button. It'll take you 2 seconds. Or I'll sit on stream and cry like the Bankless guys did the other week.
And then Jedi will get his feet out. And I'll make more comments about me and Kathy.
This conversation is deteriorating at a rapid rate. I think it's time to call it quits whilst we're ahead barely.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll be back Friday. See you then.
Cheers.